Tempus here. Hello and welcome to E-Update for your dose of esports and gaming news. First up, gaming news. In Starcraft II news, the Heart of the Swarm expansion has been unveiled with a show of new units such as the Warhound, Viper and Tempest, not to mention a ton of changes, tweaks with existing units and more storyline. As for the release date, it is still to be announced but will hopefully be on its way soon. But hey, better late than never. As for the effect this expansion will have on Starcraft eSports, it's anybody's guess. Personally, I believe this expansion may help to smooth out the rough edges and weaknesses that certain races have, while opening up new ones to exploit for an added challenge. As for World of Warcraft, the Mists of Pandaria expansion has been announced to release on the 25th of September 2012. This expansion will bring players to the long-lost land of Pandaria, which means new zones, new dungeons, 5 more levels, a new talent system, pet battles, and a ton of new features including a change to the looking for raid loot system. So, you don't have to wait long to get your panda on. Tryon Worlds has announced an expansion pack to the MMORPG known as Rift. The expansion is called Storm Legion, and with this expansion, players will get 2 new continents, a shared city called Tempest Bay, which will house both Guardians and Defiance. The level cap will be raised from 50 to 60 levels, as well as a new soul for every calling. The expansion will bring 7 new dungeons, 3 new raids, as well as a chronicle. There is also talk of world bosses being able to interact with the terrain, so I hope you didn't like that forest too much. The game is also introducing things called dimensions, which will allow players and guilds to own a piece of Talara. Tryon is also developing a game called End of Nations. This game is going to be free to play, meaning you need to buy the game, but after that, no subscription fees. So, what is End of Nations? It's an MMO RTS, or rather a massively multiplayer online real-time strategy game. While I can't tell you too much of the game, you can see for yourself by signing up for the beta on their site. The game has no official release date but is expected sometime in 2012. NCSoft and ArenaNet will be releasing Guild Wars 2 on the 25th of August, but unless you pre-purchase it, you will have to wait an extra 3 days. What is Guild Wars 2? Guild Wars 2 is a much anticipated MMORPG with many players desperate to snap up a copy and many others already playing in the beta. In order to play this game, you will have to buy it. However, it has no subscription fees, so it's a once-off payment and that's it. In Guild Wars 2, you will pick one of 5 main races, these being the Asura, Sylvari, Human, Norn, and Char. In Guild Wars 2, you will pick a profession. Professions in this game function much the same as a class in traditional RPGs, such as a Necromancer or a Ranger. Combat in Guild Wars 2 involves a lot of movement, as where you stand affects your ability to fight. Guild Wars 2 focuses a lot on player choice and storyline, which means a large portion of the game is dynamic, giving you events to tackle in the wilderness alongside other players. Guild Wars 2 is not an expansion to Guild Wars, but rather an entirely new game, so you will not need to purchase the Guild Wars 1 in order to play this. Insomniac Games will be releasing its very successful Ratchet Clank, the next one being Ratchet Clank Full Frontal Assault for the United States, but for Europe it will be called Ratchet Clank Q-Force. In America it will only be purchasable through the PlayStation Store, but in the EU you can buy it from the PlayStation Store or on Blu-ray disc. This is a PlayStation 3 exclusive title and features solo or multiplayer gameplay. This Ratchet & Clank game is the 9th in the series, counting the downloadable content of Quest for Booty. That's it for the gaming news section, and now we move on to eSports, starting off with a short explanation of what it is and some facts about it. Should you wish to skip the introduction and dive straight into the eSports news, click the annotation on the video. So what is eSports? Esports, or competitive gaming, is where players compete together in order to win. competition is incredibly fierce, and to win one of the many tournaments is extremely difficult and requires an immense amount of practice. Esports is quite young, having only been around for about 2 decades, and not really given too much attention until more recently. Esports has grown and continues to grow at an exponential rate. In the year 2000, the World Cyber Games was held in Seoul, Korea, and was host to 174 players from 17 different countries, with a total prize pool of $20,000. 6 years later, the prize pool was at $462,000, with 700 players from 70 different countries. In 2011, Valve hosted The International, where top players competed in Dota 2 for a $1 million grand prize. MLG Columbus broke a record with 22 million viewers watching the event online. Competitive gaming is already large and grows by the day. That's it for the introduction to esports, and now we move on to esports news. The TSL4 begins with 32 players competing in the tournament having made it through the qualifiers. You can watch the TSL4 live through their stream or on their YouTube site. The links will be in the description. And now we move on to the results, going from the top down. Cass managed to 3-0 his opponent Freyr despite making a blunder in Game 1, and then taking Games 2 and 3 to advance further into the tournament. Moving on, we saw ST Life take it 3-2 with his absolutely crazy play, so much cheese and so much insanity, making for some very interesting matches and a very close series. Early on in the series, Alfie managed to get a nice lead, but failed to seal the deal, so Life will be going on the next round. Next up, we had Liquid's Ret versus Startail's Squirtle, giving us some very interesting macro-focused games with exceptional play by both players. In one of the games, we managed to see mass carriers from Squirtle, which is always fun. This series is one of the tightest ones so far, with Squirtle taking it 3-2 and advancing on to the next phase. Moving on down, we had Lelouch against Curious for a ZVZ, giving us some really good and well-played games from both players, but Curious was ahead every time for a flawless victory of 3-0, so Curious will be advancing further into this tournament. Next up, it is Vortex, who goes face-to-face with Baby Knight. Baby Knight shows some great blink micro, but the continued pressure from Vortex's drops turns out to overwhelm Baby Knight, to give Vortex the 3-1 series win and the ability to move on. And then it's on over to EC Wellmu versus MVP Keen. We saw some great defense by Keen, just reflecting Wellmu every time, and edging ahead as the games went on, to finally crush his opponent 3-0. And so, Keen will be moving on further into the TSL4. And here we have Major battling it out with TSL Hyun. We saw Major playing very defensively and losing the first 2 games, giving Hyun the lead, but then swapping to his aggressive style and crippling Hyun, who was never able to recover, tipping the series into Major's favor 3-2, so Major will be going on into the next round. Now it's on to the final match up for the episode. Johnny Recco going up against Naniwa. In the games we saw Naniwa continuing again and again to attack, being extremely aggressive, but getting repelled repeatedly. Naniwa managed to take only a single game, and Johnny Recco takes the series 3-1 to advance into the next phase of the TSL4. Lots of great games from all the players so far, with the right side done for now, and with the other side playing on Saturday at 8 PM and playing on Sunday at 6 PM. Just a quick refresh on exactly who has made it through so far. For the Terran, we have Empire Cass, MVP Keen, and Major. From the Zerg, we have Startail's Life and Curious, K3's Vortex, and Johnny Recco. For the Protoss, we've only got Startail's Squirtle advancing, so unless the other Protoss players show us some amazing things, the hopes and dreams of all Protoss fans will ride with Squirtle. I hope you enjoyed this very first episode of E-Update. Make sure to comment, rate, and subscribe for more in this series. Good luck, and have fun.